Over the last 2 years, I've lost over 45 pounds, over 50 years old. At 5'2", I was weighing in at 175 pounds, and as of today, I am in the low 130s. On top of that, in September, I was able to lose the last 10 pounds in a 3-week period. And so over the last 2 years, I've been able to hone in and figure out exactly what I need to do to be able to lose weight quickly. Even though I'm close to my goal weight, I was still able to lose 10 pounds in 3 weeks. So in this video, I'm going to go over those things that I've learned that really matter in helping you lose weight quickly, and maybe also tell you some of the things that really didn't help me in the long run. If you're new here, my name is Suzanne, and I like to share all the things that have worked for me in losing weight over 50 years old. When I first started out on my weight journey, no matter what I tried, I just could not seem to lose weight. And so one of the first things that I learned that really helped me a lot is that I realized that I needed to lower my sugar and the carbs in my food. I focus primarily on protein and fat sources, and I like to keep the total grams of carbs that I eat down to less than 20. Now, some people will try to keep that down to 20 grams of net carbs, which basically means they can subtract out any kind of fiber. But I find that keeping it at 20 grams or lower of total carbs keeps me from deceiving myself into thinking that I'm actually eating low carb when I'm not. Now, what do I mean by that? There's a lot of foods on the market now where they will focus on making those foods a certain amount of net carbs, and it's really easy to eat too much of those foods and ultimately either not lose weight or even maybe gain some weight. Now, in addition to that, I had to do a couple of things when it came to my food choices. The first thing that I had to do was I did have to set a calorie limit. Now, no matter what people say, you cannot continue to lose weight just eating low carb. At some point, after you've lost enough of your weight and get close to your goal, you are going to have to start reining in those calorie counts. I know a lot of people don't like to hear that, but that is the reality. If you have a really big goal and you want to get down to, say, your high school weight or get into really good shape, at some point, like I did, you're going to have to start tightening up the calories. So for me, when I lost my last 10 pounds in a 3-week period, that calorie count ended up being around 850 to 900 calories per day. That's what I needed in order to be able to lose about 3 pounds a week pretty steadily. Now remember, I told you I am 5'2", so my calories are going to be a little bit on the lower end. If you are a taller woman, like 5'6", 5'8", then you're definitely going to be able to get away with eating more calories. But for me, that's what I had to do in order to see that type of weight loss. Now, the second thing I had to do was I had to make up my mind how much fat and how much protein I was going to eat within that calorie target. In the beginning, when I had a lot of weight to lose, I opted to be higher on the fat side. So some of the fat sources that I would eat were cheese. I liked mayonnaise, avocado or guacamole. I would eat sausage patties, maybe higher fat cuts of meat. And usually my ratio was about 75% of my calories was coming from my fat choices and 25 was coming from my protein. While eating that ratio, I was able to lose probably about the first 30 pounds pretty effortlessly. I wasn't hungry a whole lot. I could kind of eat whatever I wanted. However, I did make sure to track my food so I knew exactly what I was eating in case I decided I needed to tweak something to continue my weight loss. But after I got around to about 145, 150, I had to recalibrate everything that I had been doing for the previous year and a half because I just wasn't losing weight anymore. In fact, I was on a 6-month plateau where I just couldn't seem to lose weight. And at that point, I had to put a different plan into place. At that point, I came across a YouTube mentor who taught me that in order for me to continue to lose weight, I was going to have to change the ratio of my foods. So I had to actually start increasing my protein just slightly, and I had to lower my fat. And the reason I found out was because the more fat you're getting within your diet, the less your body has to go to your fat reserves in order to get the energy that it needs. So in order for me to continue losing fat, I had to lower the energy that my body was getting from my food. When I was losing my 10 pounds, what that looked like was I was getting around 80 to 90 grams of protein, and I was keeping my fat down to about 30 to 40 grams. The third thing that I had to do was I had to have some way to track exactly what I was eating, be able to track the percentages of fat and protein and carbs, but also be able to track my calories and my weight. And the app that I use for that is called the Carb Manager. It's the only one I've used over the last 2 years. I love using it. You can save your favorite foods in there. So if you're tracking your food, all you have to do is just click a button and it will add that food to your daily total. And then you can also see as you're going throughout the day how many calories you've eaten, as well as what the different percentages are between your protein and fat, and also your grams of protein and fat. So once you've figured out those 3 things, setting your calories, deciding what your fat to protein ratio is going to be, and having your tracker ready, then you're going to start making a list of foods that you like to eat. So there's no way I could have continued to lose weight over this last 2 years if I had not started with only eating foods that I really, really love. And so I started watching a lot of YouTube videos to get ideas of different things that I could eat, looking at different low carb or keto food lists, and figuring out which types of foods I genuinely like. And from there, I found that there were really only a handful of foods that I actually like to eat every single day. That made it easier because even now today, a lot of the foods I ate in the beginning are still the same foods that I love to eat now. And since I've been doing this for a long time, I already know what their calorie count is. I know about how much I can eat every day to maintain or to lose. I know exactly what's in those foods, so I don't have to think as much about what I eat anymore, and that definitely makes losing weight a lot easier. It also makes it a lot more sustainable because anyone who's been on a strict diet knows some of the foods they tell you to eat on those diets are just things you just know you wouldn't eat for the rest of your life. And to me, there's no point in following any kind of eating plan that has foods in it you know you're not going to stick to. Now, I will put a video at the end of this video that gives you a list of 0 and low carb foods so that you can watch it and get some ideas of some different food items that would work for you as well. Once you have your list of foods and your list of meals put together, the next thing you're going to want to do is get rid of all temptation. And the best way to do this is to, first of all, get all the foods out of the house that you know are going to tempt you and make it harder for you to stick to your eating plan. I only keep foods in the house that are actually what I eat on a daily basis. And over time, since my family has seen me lose this 45 pounds, they've actually started eating similarly to me as well. And so we no longer keep any kind of sugary treats in the house, anything that's going to tempt us. And that makes it so much easier because then in a moment of weakness, you can't just go to the cupboard and grab something. Now, I do have a rule, and that rule is if I really, really am craving something, I am free to get in my car, go out to the store and buy that item, eat it there or eat it in my car. But we as a family don't generally bring foods in the house otherwise that aren't on our plan. One thing that I also had to do in the beginning was there were certain stores that I could not go into because just being in those stores would trigger a strong desire for me to want to eat some of the foods they had in them. One of them, for some reason, was the dollar store. Whenever I would go into the dollar store just to look at like decorations or some other item I wanted to look at there, I noticed they always put the treat aisles right up in the front. And I mean, they just had aisle after aisle after aisle of these cookies and candies and just anything you could think of. And so after a while, I just had to stop going there because just walking in the aisle, it just felt so intoxicating. Like I just really, really wanted one or all of those treats. And so in order to save myself from having to have those strong temptations, I literally had to stop going into those stores. One of the things that really helped me in losing weight quickly was having a specific cutoff time at night. So I could eat everything that was on my plan during the day, but after a certain time, which usually was around between 6 and 7:30 p.m., my kitchen was closed, meaning I was done eating for the day. And in the beginning, that was a little difficult because after 7:30, usually like around 8:39 before it was time to go to bed, I would start getting really intense hunger pangs because I was combining much lower calories than I was used to, plus cutting my meal time off earlier in the night. And it was also after a walk that I would take, so I would be pretty hungry. But what really worked for me with that hunger was I started drinking more water at night. I also bought 0-calorie Powerades, and I would always have one of those after my walk so that I would be really hydrated, and then I would sip on water the rest of the night. And something I noticed I had never realized before this was that drinking that water was enough to actually make the hunger go away. And then I would just do things during that time period where I was very relaxed. I wasn't moving around the house. I wasn't trying to clean the house, burning extra calories. I instead was just trying to relax and do something where I didn't really have to move a whole lot. So usually that was like a TV show with my husband and kids, and that actually worked pretty well. So like I said, that meant that I was having a lot of hunger. And that was one of the things that I was fighting a lot when I was on my 6-month plateau. I was really fighting the realization in order to meet a goal that was as tough as mine, I was going to have to learn how to be okay with being a little bit hungry. I really resisted that for the first year and a half because for the most part, I was able to lose weight and I really didn't feel very hungry most of the time. So when I went on this plan to lose 10 pounds, I already knew in advance that that was going to be something I was going to have to learn to deal with. And as I went week by week on this plan, it actually got easier and easier for me to do it because I just kept practicing it and I didn't give in to the temptations at night to eat more food. Now, I mentioned earlier that I would go for walks, and the advice I would give to you is try to do some sort of walking or exercise. And when I say exercise, I don't mean like gardening or something that's really, really low calorie burn. I mean, try to get in a 30-minute to a 60-minute walk every night. I committed to doing an hour-long walk every single night. And then when I would get home from my walks, before I would drink any kind of water, every night I would weigh myself on my scale. Now, I'll put a link to that scale down below in the description for you if you want to use it. I really like it because it gives me not only what I weigh, but it also gives me stats like my body fat percentage, how much muscle I have, a lot of the different things that I like to know as I'm losing weight. And so if you're interested in checking it out, I will go ahead and put it down below for you. But I would weigh myself at night after my walk before drinking any water. And I would do that every night consistently. And why that really helped me was because it gave me a glimpse into where I was at for the day. So if I had weighed myself the day before and I was, say, 140, and then today I weigh myself at night and I'm 139, well, mentally I know, oh, I've lost weight. And so now I know when I weigh myself in the morning, chances are I'm going to have a weight loss. And that would help me the rest of the night when I would start to get hungry because I wouldn't want to lose that loss that I knew I was going to get the next morning if I just stuck it out. And then the next morning, I would also weigh myself. So I would weigh myself twice a day, in the morning when I wake up, before I drink anything, and after my walk at night before I drink anything, trying to keep it as consistent as possible so that I wasn't getting a lot of weight fluctuation and that number would be pretty accurate. Now, I know there's a lot of people who really resist weighing themselves on the scale, but I look at the scale as just another data point. I don't read more into it than I need to. As you start doing it every day, you get more and more comfortable with doing it. And actually, now I kind of like doing it because it gives me the information I need twice a day to be able to stay on my plan better. And the last piece of advice I have for you, if you're really trying to lose 50 pounds in 2026, there's one main thing that you have to do before any of those other things, or you're not going to be able to reach your goal. And that is, you have to commit. You have to mentally commit that you are going to follow this plan no matter what, even if it's just for a short period of time. Maybe try it out for 3 or 4 weeks and see how it's going. And then when you're getting good results, it'll keep you going forward and continuing to get the weight loss that you want. One thing that I have learned over the last 2 years, there are going to be times when I fall. There's going to be times when I go off my plan or I have a cheat meal. But I've also learned how to get back on track the very next day. And that is a skill that you're going to need as you're losing weight and eventually when you reach your goal to maintain your weight, because maintenance is just as much work as losing it. But if you learn how to get yourself back on track, if you see yourself gaining a little bit of weight back, you know how to tighten it up and get back on track again. If you need some help with ideas for some zero carb or low carb foods, I'm going to walk you through that with this video right here. Good luck.